There's only a couple of days left before 2021 is finally being 6 feet under and the new era of 2022 is birthed onto us, kicking and screaming and yeah, probably covered in goop. As you can already tell by the thumb of this video, my game of the year is Resident Evil Village. Just FYI, there is obviously a massive spoiler warning at the beginning of this video because I'm going to be talking about all of the events of Resident Evil Village. Consider yourself warned. If you've been keeping an eye on the channel, you'll already know that I've made quite a few videos about it. From things you didn't know about the game to lore videos for all of the lords and the Duke. I feel like that was a strong indication that, yeah, I am pretty deep into the game, its lore and everything that could have been, but just in case you didn't know, this year Resident Evil Village was an eye-opener for me in so many ways. As a bit of a goth myself, the arcane, pagan, dark influences in Resident Evil Village lit up my brain and just made that serotonin go. From the dishevelled, isolated village with its strange rituals to Castle Dimitrescu and the eerie Beneviento Mansion, Resident Evil Village had so much more going for it than any other Resi game I've played. Resident Evil 7 was terrifying, sure, but getting to explore, and trying not to die, in the little horror crucibles that were all scary in their own unique way was quite something. I was never sure what was coming next, especially when it came to the Beneviento Mansion. That mansion, my god. You all know the bit I'm referring to. That was a Silent Hill-esque masterclass in psychological and very physical body horror, as my god, the implication is that thing was birthed from the wooden Mia mannequin. Resident Evil Village went hard with the horror as the baby is a twisted homicidal reflection of Ethan's kidnapped and crystallized daughter Rose. And having been stripped of all of your weapons in the Beneviento Mansion, all you could do was kite, outrun or hide from the shambling creature. It twists the point of the game on its head as instead of trying to find Rose, you're now desperately trying to escape her. Being hunted is bad enough, but you're also forced through narrow corridors or semi-ordinary rooms, minus the mannequin limbs hanging from the ceiling, but if that's normal for you then hey, we should meet up, I want to know about you. Which adds another lovely dimension of claustrophobia. Which, by the way, is made all the more stomach-twisting through the way that you're completely safe for about 70% of your time in the Beneviento Mansion, starting with the exploration of the upper floors at your own pace, and then figuring out puzzles before it all suddenly kicks off. Well done, Capcom. I am well and truly scarred from the Beneviento Mansion experience. Tension saturated the air in other bits of the game, sure, specifically when you're exploring the cellar in Castle Dimitrescu or just making your way through the village. But the baby bit has already gone down in history as one of the most memorable sections of a Resident Evil game ever. Resident Evil Village went all out with the gothic aura, or whatever you want to call it, with Lady Dimitrescu turning into a dragon, Frankenstein influences for Heisenberg, and Moreau being an obvious reference to the horror tale of the island of Dr. Moreau. Plus, Angie. Don't think I really need to do much to justify her gothic links. She's an animated ventriloquist dummy, for God's sake. For me, these gothic themes were a refreshing change of pace from other Resi games, which eventually have a kind of sciencey angle to them because Umbrella is involved somehow. It was refreshing to see Miranda as just a rogue scientist who was quite happy to do her own experimenting in some crypts, rather than using an Umbrella-esque high-tech lab or something. Okay, now, you knew this was coming. I'm gonna talk about Lady Dimitrescu. Having an older, matriarchal villain who was so utterly disinterested in men, apart from using them as a food source, and has daughters who she clearly loves in her own way was refreshing. Lady Dimitrescu was powerful, confident and classy, and we need more female and non-binary villains like that who just own themselves. You know what I mean? Nothing she did was for the male gaze. Evidently, we were all quite excited about Lady Dimitrescu, as the internet did go kinda wild for her, and I really wish she'd stuck around for a bit longer. Hopefully the upcoming DLC will let us see more of our tall vampire lady. And then, oh my god, the discourse that kicked off around Resi Village. First up, there was the baby bit, which is fairly easy to talk about because who wasn't terrified by it? Then there's Ethan's refusal to team up with Heisenberg. Why, Ethan? Just team up with him to kill Mother Miranda, then betray him to save Rose. The utter fool. But that was just one of Ethan's other choice moments in Resident Evil Village. Uniting us from all around the globe were moments like these, and characters like Lady Dimitrescu. Even when you had finished the game, there was more waiting for you to discover, and I'm not just talking about the Mercenaries mode. Resident Evil Village launched with the concept art of both Resident Evil 7, otherwise known as The Tragedy of Ethan Winters, Resident Evil Village, and full character models readily available, as long as you had the points to unlock them. Not only did this provide ample material for some videos, but damn it was interesting to see what could have been. Lady D with some giant shears, Moreau absorbing the body of his beloved onto his back, the Beneviento mansion being full of a ghostly family. In a game that is kind of lacking in lore in some places, these extra bits of background to how each character was developed and the overtones the designers were going for lit up my brain again, and lo and behold, the beginning of my Eurogamer lore series was born. There is a playlist for you to look at if you're interested in lore, just saying. Producing a video with all the evidence, theories, and unnecessarily deep research is now my utter favourite thing to do. Nitty-gritty hyper-specific knowledge is in my bones, and it was Resident Evil Village that reawoke that part of me. And, just as a quick aside, thank you so much all of you for all your support for my lore dives. So, now, naturally, I feel unnaturally invested in the compelling world of Resident Evil Village, and cannot wait for the upcoming DLC and the extra lore it will hopefully bequeath us. For me, Resident Evil Village stood out for the same reason Resident Evil 7 did. Instead of being focused on series favourites like Chris, Jill, Leon, Ada, or Claire, Resi 7 and Village centred on a personal struggle, with Ethan trying to find his wife and unwittingly stumbling upon the mould and Umbrella's dark dealings. While I wouldn't say Ethan was relatable, his story was the change I think the series needed to get newcomers like me invested in it, as there wasn't a ton of backstory we had to know to understand what was going on. Village continued this trend with a now middle-aged Chris appearing sporadically to help tie up the loose ends, but Ethan was still there to save Rose rather than helping to stop Miranda for any big picture reason, in the same way Chris was. Now that those two threads of Chris's involvement and Ethan's story have been united, they're twisted together in such a way as to produce Rose. At the moment, there's no telling where her story will go, but now Capcom have entered what feels like a new era with a focus on personal struggles and turmoil. I'm hoping that Rose will be less of a super soldier and more of a teen trying to figure out what the hell she is and do some introspection while she's tackling whatever the hell the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance are up to. To round it all off, Eurogamer as a team had a great time with Resident Evil Village, and because I'm a sap, that is part of the reason why I love the game so much. From us being catty about Ethan, to screaming about the baby and the dolls and Slack, to playing the Mercenaries challenge with Ian, to me then repeatedly calling him Ethan in later streams because boy, they do sound similar, Resident Evil Village was quite the game to bond over. We're an opinionated lot here at Eurogamer, and chatting / screaming / yelling about what we thought about the game was a highlight for me. And that's why Resident Evil Village is my game of the year for 2021. What's your game of the year, and what do you think is going to happen with Rose in the next Resident Evil? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, thanks very much, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Eurogamer, as we have a new video out every single day, all the way into 2022. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go and reread the entire Resident Evil Village Wikipedia and rewatch my footage to make sure I didn't miss anything. So, I'll see you next time, and hey, have a very merry new year. That's an order.